Welcome to the MLB Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. I'm your host today, Nate Weitzer, joined by Midwest Moar resident baseball expert Josh Lander, out on business. And we have to bring up some business for you guys today with the seasons changing here, MLB regular season winding down. This is going to be our last show until those wild card games on October 3rd. When the season ends, we will be back in full force for all MLB playoff betting. But with, the season winding down, a lot of teams looking at quad A players, trying to get a grasp on what they have, not necessarily playing to win, playing a little bit of spoiler. Only a couple games you can necessarily pick out as true competitive matchups. We're going to steer away from the full slate. There will still be betting content up on thelines.com, of course, every day. And we will be bringing you more videos on NFL season, which opens in force, of course, this weekend. Look out on Friday. We will have a player props show for you each and every week. Mo does a Beating the Lines show with a couple of our other residents at the Lines. Of course, Matt Brown and Brett Colson have their Gridiron show. Lots of content up on the Lines channel for NFL. And we will be transitioning a little bit to NBA talk next week, looking at some futures, getting ready for that season, which, of course, opens on October 18th. So just switching gears for you here, but we do have one more regular season slate to look at for you here on the MLB. Do like and subscribe to this page so you won't miss a beat when we do switch to NBA, NFL, and when we come back for the MLB playoffs. But looking at Wednesday night, Mo, actually have more games in the afternoon here and some intriguing things to look at that we read about on the lines. But starting with the 6:40 game here, Red Sox are plus 144 at Tampa. Nick Pivetta going against Jeffrey Springs. The Marlins and Trevor Rogers plus 140 now at the Phillies. That line continues to drop with Bailey Falter, on the mound for the Phils. So that's intriguing if it continues to drop. Blue Jays are minus 150 at the O's, plus 128 at home with Dean Kremer. Alek Manoah going for Toronto. We'll break that one down for you. We got the second leg of the Twins-Yankees doubleheader here. It was rained out last night. Joe Ryan and the Twins are plus 170 against Garrett Cole and the Yanks. Mike Minor and the Reds plus 125 against Javi Assad and the Cubs minus 150 at home. Abbott and the Nats plus 250 at the Cardinals, who are huge favorites with Jordan Montgomery starting. Cole Reagans and the Rangers plus 240 at Astros, who have Christian Javier going. The Guardians are minus 145 against Zach Greinke and the Royals at home. And then the last game we'll talk about, D-backs plus 180 at the Padres, who are throwing Yu Darvish. I'm still on the fade Red Sox train, especially when it comes to the Rays here, who, as I mentioned in the last couple shows, really have the formula to beat the Red Sox because of their edge, bullpen, defense, playing low-scoring tight games. And I'm on them again here tonight. It's pretty much the same line as last night when they had Rasmussen going. Now it's Jeffrey Springs, another guy with impressive home road splits, with him just pretty good numbers in general for his career, 30% call plus swinging strike. As a starter here, cutting down on the hard contact, getting guys to chase a lot more often. The bullpen edge is really the biggest thing here. I mean, Tampa, the second best bullpen over the last 30 days, Boston, second worst. Tampa's 46-24 at home now on the season, 11-4 against Boston. And Nick Pivetta going, who has a little bit of better road splits for Boston, but not when he faces the AL East. Mo, this is rough. 7.25 ERA against division foes this season, including 10.1 against Tampa. He's lost 4 straight regular season starts against Tampa. His last start, he got a lot more ground balls, but the exit velocity nearly 94 miles per hour. And that's just not going to play well at the Trop. So, I mean, even with the back end of that lineup at Tampa, not necessarily showing a lot of firepower, I think you got to like the Rays here to continue doing what they do in winning games in September.
Yeah, this is a matchup where my numbers are telling me I should probably actually be looking at betting the Red Sox. But I don't know if I can do it. I'm actually a little interested in the over here. Jeffrey Springs, he's been very, very good. Really interesting splits, actually. He's another guy, I think we talked about it with Austin Voth, where like you're supposed to be quite a bit worse starting compared to relieving, but Springs has been actually quite a bit better. 291 WOBA allowed, 21% K minus BB. That's outstanding. As a reliever, he's only 16.8% and a 338 WOBA allowed, which is below average. He's also have reverse splits on his handedness. I believe that's because his changeup is his best weapon. He's been actually a fair amount better against right-handed batters. Boston is mostly right-handed. I do like that they hit the changeup well, though. I also like that they called up Tristan Casas. Spare us any more Bobby Dalbec at bats, please. Tristan Casas was an elite prospect. A little bit of a disappointing season in AAA this year. Not quite crushing it as you would hope at this point in his career. He's more just like very good. The projections are mostly thinking he's going to be an above average hitter, I believe, right now. So I think he makes their lineup a decent amount better compared to how bad Dalbec's been. As for Nick Pivetta, he's very fastball heavy. That's good against the Rays. So it's kind of interesting that they've hit him so hard. They're pretty poor against the heater, 20th, but they do hammer his primary secondary, which is the curveball. He throws that 27% of the time. So I think they were top 5 against the curve. Overall, I just think 7 seems pretty low. I don't like this Rays lineup at all. I've talked about that a lot on here, but they just keep doing it. So I guess I must be missing something. I mean, even when I'm thinking about their platoon splits, I'm still thinking this isn't a very good lineup, but they do a solid job. And I think Boston can score some runs on Springs here, and you don't need that many runs from them to get to over 7. So I took a little over 7, I think minus 115 last night. Haven't checked it this morning. I think if Boston were to get up to plus 150, I would think about betting them. Right now, it's like right on the border.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't the greatest odds for sure, but I again just think that the Rays have the formula to keep beating the Sox as they've done all year and sticking in the AL East here. A little bit more of an even matchup with the Jays and O's. Just played a slugfest last night, and the pitching matchup's a little bit better tonight. Dean Kremer against Alek Manoah, who struggled against the O's in consecutive starts. Some really different batted ball data and in terms of his pitch diet as well. In those 2 starts, tried some different things. Didn't necessarily work out, but he's been great in his 3 since. And so now he faces the Orioles again, maybe throwing more sliders, less changeups, considering Baltimore is 22nd against the slider in the second half here. Very good against the changeup, however. Manoah, I mean, overall has just been very reliable in his career and on the road this season, 2.2 ERA, just allowing 20% hard contact. And the thing I'm looking at here, Mo, is the righty matchup. He allows just 17% line drive and almost no opposite field contact in that situation. And that's how you want to pitch at Camden Yards. You don't want to allow people to hit it out to the right field fences, which are much shorter than the left field fences at that ballpark. Kremer, much better this year. Also had some rough outings against the Jays. That was last year, though. This year, he's adjusted, throwing a lot more cutter than his straight line fastball. And Toronto has struggled against the cutter in the second half. So, again, you have a pretty good matchup in the righty-righty situations. Both these lineups are pretty righty-heavy. I don't know how I feel about the total at 7.5. I mean, Manoah does have a tendency to keep things very low scoring, but I definitely lead towards Toronto if it's a low-scoring game, or really in general, just because of the edge on the mound. If it's below minus 150, I think that's a bet.
Yeah, definitely leaning toward Toronto. I did bet them last night, but I got a really good number, like minus 137 or something. And I'm seeing some like minus 145s this morning. I think that's as far as I'd think about it. Yeah, they do have a pretty good edge on the mound, but honestly not as big as I would have thought before I was digging into Dean Kremer's season. he was a terrible pitcher who I was basically looking to fade all the time, and then he's been pretty decent this year. I was trying to figure out what's going on there. It looks like two things have happened. He added a mile per hour to his fastball velocity, so that's obviously going to help him. And then he's also throwing 31% cutters this year. That's been like a change I think a few of the Orioles pitchers have made. The Jays, I think they were 12th against the cutter, so they don't hit it particularly well, but not terrible either. I still think Manoah has a decent-sized edge on Kramer, and their offense is the more talented for sure. And right now, they seem to be picking it up a little bit, especially Bo Bichette. He hit a couple dingers. I think if he's hitting well and the Jays are playing to their talent level on their lineup, I do think they should be at least minus 150 here. So I would say just look at the line, see where it goes. Otherwise, if you're comfortable with like a smaller edge, I would say, yeah, you can bet the Jays up to minus 145.
And then we get out west here to San Diego, which is actually my preferred angle tonight if you're able to juke these odds. I mean, San Diego's a huge favorite, minus 215, but I like the team total at 4.5, and I like some of the bonuses you can get with Yu Darvish to log 7+ Ks, 8+ Ks in a win. That's, I mean, if you go 9+ Ks, that's plus 600. And with Darvish, it's about getting some guys to chase, getting some contact outside the zone. He's been very good with that over his last 12 starts, getting a 10.8 K per 9 ratio. Arizona's actually got the 9th highest outside zone contact in the last month. He's 2-0 with a 1.8 ERA against Arizona this year, 6-2 with a 2.3 at home on the season. And then on the other side of the mound, rookie Tommy Henry, who we called was having a bit of a huge kind of spell of luck in his previous few starts, and then it came back to bite him against the Phillies, giving up 7 earned and walking 4 there in his last start. He's got a very high walk ratio, walk per 9 on the season. And San Diego's suddenly hitting lefties very well, 287 with a nearly 800 OPS in the last 3 weeks. And they actually have the lowest outside zone swing rate in the last 30 days. So they can pile up those walks if Henry's not able to stay in the zone. And then I think we have a few crooked numbers. I think the Padres score at least 5 runs here tonight as they build on the momentum of coming back last night. Then you have that awful Arizona bullpen to try to tag a few more onto. So I think the run line's in play here, even though they're at home.
Yeah, I'm a little bit interested in the Padres, actually. I did see a minus 200 at BetMGM this morning. I'm not sure if it's still there right now. I think that's probably worth a small play. Even though, man, I got to say the Pods have caused me a lot of pain this year. Just multiple poor offensive performances when I bet them, just refusing to play to their talent level. But, man, Tommy Henry is pretty dreadful. 24% chase rate. It's really, really bad. 16 walks and 23 strikeouts in the majors this year. That's obviously awful. I think if he ever wants to have success, he's going to need to change his pitch mix. 56% fastballs, and he's throwing a 91 mile per hour heater from the left side. That's his worst graded pitch as well as a prospect. So I think he's got to kind of learn to pitch backwards a little bit. The Darvish side of things is like you brought up, is actually a really interesting matchup because he's so good at getting batters to chase. He's always really relied on his secondaries that have been awesome throughout his career, his slider in particular. But Arizona chases less frequently than any other team now. They were bottom 5 all year in chase rate. Now they're the best. So, yeah, I guess I would watch the game maybe and see like if Darvish is commanding his slider at the edges of the zone. And if he is, then, yeah, I think it's going to be a long night for Arizona. But if he's not able to do that, if he's like firing too many waste pitches, Arizona's not going to swing at them. So, yeah, it's a pretty interesting matchup between those two things.
Indeed, it is, and this is our final regular season slate. Once again, guys, do like and subscribe to the page, though, so you know when we're back. That's going to be October 5th, 2 days after the regular season ends. We will be breaking down the wild card rounds, looking at all those betting angles through the playoffs into the World Series. And in the meantime, you have plenty of NFL content to look at. As I mentioned, the player props video will feature me, Josh, and Mo, your usual hosts. That'll start Friday this week, and then look out for some NBA futures content next week. Of course, stay on top of the Lines page and YouTube page as well, so you get all that content as it rolls in. And until we see you next, happy betting.